Hello, good day. It's Thursday, February 8th. It's a little after 9. Um, you know, the I started this with the intention of being with things that come up in the world, both like globally, locally, and in my own world. Um, and something that I've noticed recently is a lot of people have asked me, how's it going? How are you today? It's a very typical response. And even whenever I was a young kid, I would always take that question very seriously to ask myself, how am I actually doing? And, as I answer that question recently, I find myself being like, things are okay. And yesterday I had a client come in and she was talking, we asked the same question and she was answering and she was like, this is going on and this and this and this, all this change, all this disruption, all this kind of chaotic energy. And she was like, and we're getting through it. And then she returned the question and she said, how are things for you? And I said, there's always something going on. And like right now, I feel a lull. And that's always been an indication for me to really check in with the lull. Is there actually a lull, or have I become um, desensitized to what's happening? So, as I was kind of asking myself this question, I came to the conclusion that there's a little bit of desensitization going on, and um, you know, maybe there's not. Maybe there is like a lull happening. I also think, I've been really clued into like cyclical living, and we're still in the lull of winter. So things should be a bit more slower. There should be more of a lull. We should be like relaxing into the lull a little bit, lull a little bit. And then that makes me kind of question like, okay, is the lull a lull, or is the lull a wintry thing? So, in efforts to understand that, and I also think it's really important. We've just celebrated Groundhog's Day. I mean, who celebrates that? But you know what I mean. And then there was Imbolc as well, and Imbolc, the pagan, I think it's pagan, but marking of this holiday is to acknowledge the winter dredge. The winter that continues on. And I think that that's really worthy of sitting with for a moment to think about how winter in some parts of the world still has a long way to go, and then in other parts of the world, we're starting to consider, excuse me, waking up into spring. So Imbolc is all about welcoming the spring and saying we're in the midst of the winter and spring is soon to be on their way. So for that, for our little moment of mindfulness, I just want to sit in the idea that maybe we find our root and our location. So oftentimes, non-body working people, like anyone who's in the world, um, may have a relationship to their body, but as body workers, we're really drilled into having a relationship with our body, locating ourselves through our body. So one of the things that I have really found to be helpful for myself is locating the bones. So if you, I invite you to come sit in your space and get yourself comfortable, and let's do a little bit of bone locating, okay? And this helps me to feel the sturdiness in my own body, but then also locating my bones helps me locate proprioceptively where I am in space and time. I feel like the fluidity of muscles and viscera allows for fluidity within ourselves and our space, and we need that. And we also need the locating abilities of our bones. So find yourself in your seat, move around if you need to, and start to just loosen your gaze. So maybe you were intently staring at the screen or staring at something. So just start to kind of look around your space, and you might find yourself kind of swaying back and forth, or maybe you're tapping your toe. And I just invite you to slow that down. I think that when we move our bodies, whether it's tapping or whether it's tapping or it's swaying or movement or fidgeting, if we can just slow that process down and really think about where we are, we can start to see how that movement is serving us. You can take a deep breath or not. So now what I want you to do is take your hands and rub them together just a little bit. It doesn't have to be super intense, just to feel the palms of your hands. Bring them to your head and just notice where your skull is. You can full palm touch or just fingertips, whatever works for you. And then bring your hands to your face and start to feel your cheekbones. Just trace the bone all the way back to your ear. Come down and feel your jawbone. Come back to your ear. There's a little bump behind your ear called a mastoid process. You can locate that. And then trace down your neck and notice that there's no bones here. This is just skin and folds and stuff. So come down to your collarbone here and start to feel the ridge of the collarbone. You can even come out to your shoulders if you want to. Bring your palpation or your touching down the sternum. Start to feel your rib cage. My son is home, so he's about to come down. You might hear him. So feel your rib cage and the bones within your ribs. Okay. And then as you move your hands down to your hips, you can't see my hips because of the video, but you can start to palpate or move your hip bones. Okay. There's my son, you can see him. Okay, so here is where my hip bones are. Starting to feel the hips. Okay. So as you start to feel for the sides of your hips, I want you to sway your trunk back and forth to feel the extent of where your body moves back and forth. So go all the way to the left and all the way to the right. Noticing that your hips stay straight, okay? Now you can start to create some rotations. You can rotate. Okay, noticing, continuing to keep your awareness in your hands and where your hands are touching your hips. Okay. Now, you can move your hands down your legs if you want to feel your kneecaps and your ankles if you want to. And you can also stay on your hips, okay? Stay there with that for a moment. Okay. So as you're feeling your hips and the sturdiness of your hips, I just want you to be mindful of your hands, the palms, what's touching. So as you start to touch your skin, I want you to notice the difference between your skin. So let's see if I can show you my arm. So start to notice on your skin where then you might feel the muscle and then maybe where you feel the bone. So here I can feel on my arm, my elbow into my arm bone here, but the difference is where my muscle is up here. And then where I also feel is like skin, the skin moves along the bone, feeling the muscle and then feeling the bone. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is create that same exploration, but in your hips. So feeling, and you don't have to touch your skin if you don't want to, but you can touch your clothes. You can feel your clothes and then the muscle. There's like a boingy springiness to it, and then feel the bones. Okay. Now, when you start to feel overwhelmed, when you start to feel stressed, when you start to feel I feel like overwhelm is the best one, but when you start to feel those things, you can just use your palms and start to touch your skull, your sinuses, cheekbones, trace them to your ear, jawbones, trace them to your ear, feel the mastoid process behind your ear, come down your throat, collarbone, your sternum, rib cage, and really feel into like where you feel the skin, the muscle, and the bones, and then move down to your hips. Start to feel into the different, uh, the extension of your hips. So, how far can you move from one side to another? Okay. So, as you come back to your awareness here, you can open your eyes, look around the space, um, bring your attention to the screen or to my voice, bring in, like, hone in your attention to a place, and then bring it back out, looking around your space. Move your body. Notice where your body is compared to the wall, to the chair, to wherever it is you may be. So, this is the beginning of bone locating. Um, we can continue in this. I'd love to hear from you. In my first one, I was like, I don't really want to hear from you. But today I'm like, okay, tell me how you feel about the things that you have learned in some of these inner explorations. You can go back to the beginning ones, and I'd love to hear from you. What's helping? What else would you like to see? And how can I best help you locate yourself in the world? Thanks.